When extra effort becomes expected, it stops registering as effort at all. Not because you're doing less, but because you've been doing more for too long. It usually doesn't start as a choice. It starts as a reaction, a late reply, because the thread is stalling, staying a bit longer because the handover isn't clean, stepping in early because it's easier than letting something break. It looks small, answering a message after hours, cleaning up something no one asked you to, making sure nothing breaks before anyone notices. None of this feels strategic. It feels responsible. You're not trying to stand out. You're trying to keep things moving. And once this pattern starts, it almost never reverses on its own. If this feels familiar, I'm curious. What was the first small thing that quietly became expected of you? If you can name it, leave it in the comments. And at first it works. The work flows. Problems resolve faster. Fewer things escalate. You become easier to rely on. People start coming to you directly, not with decisions, with things that are unfinished, not with opportunities, with gaps, small ones at first, a loose end, an unclear brief, a task that technically belongs somewhere else. You absorb it, you fix it, and because it gets fixed, no one looks at it again. This is the part that's easy to miss. Your effort doesn't accumulate, it disappears. Because once it works once, it becomes part of how things are expected to work. The late reply becomes the normal reply. The clean handoff becomes the assumed one. The gap you covered becomes a gap no one plans for anymore. Effort resets the baseline, not upward, flat. You're no longer doing extra. You're just meeting the new minimum. And quietly, the version of you who tried harder becomes the version you're measured against. Not because someone decided it, because it worked. This is usually where people think they're building leverage. They're not. They're building dependency. The system adjusts around what you provide. Deadlines tighten. Buffers shrink. Not because anyone asked for more, but because more showed up. And once it does, it stops being visible. There's no moment where someone says, this is additional, because the system doesn't track effort. It tracks outcomes. If the outcome happens, the input disappears. You're still working hard, probably harder than before, but now you're working hard just to keep things stable. The pace feels fixed. The calendar fills itself. The workload stops feeling negotiable. You tell yourself this is temporary, that once things calm down, the extra effort will be recognized. But this is where the logic breaks. Things don't calm down. They normalize. The system absorbs whatever you give it and recalibrates, which means reducing effort starts to look like decline. Not because your work got worse, but because the standard moved. So you keep going, responsive, available, always stepping in, not to advance, but to avoid falling behind. This is how people end up busy without traction. Not overwhelmed, not burned out, just fully occupied. The system keeps functioning, you keep contributing, but nothing opens. Not because you didn't try hard enough, but because effort, once absorbed, loses its power to change anything. It stops being leverage, it becomes maintenance. And maintenance keeps things exactly as they already are. It just keeps the machine alive, exactly as it already is.